So this took place back in the early 2000s, probably 2003 or 2004. Now, I knew a friend of mine who went to day camps during the summer months. She was pretty much around 8 at the time of this story, and this took place when she used to take day camps at rec centers. It was one of those day camps that you go for most of the day, and it's actually filled with a lot of activity and fun. They had a pool at the rec center, so they would go swimming, at least once a day, and it would be one of the best things anybody has ever asked for in the summer camp. Now, my friend at the time of this story, I'm going to call her by the name Sharon. Sharon loved doing day camps, and she had a lot of fun enjoying these camps. She got to meet new friends from different places. Some didn't even go to the same school as her, and some went to different places. But it was awesome, to say the least. Now, it wasn't until maybe Tuesday when something unfortunately happened. Now, Sharon was pretty young at the time, so he did not needed to see something that pretty much gave her PTSD. It was around the afternoon, and it was shortly after lunch where her camp group and herself were in the change room going to get changed for swimming. After they get changed and they waited with their towels and wait for everybody to finish changing so they can go swimming, that's when Sharon notices something was not quite right. Obviously, she wasn't even sure why, but she had a feeling that something really strange was really happening. She decided to shake it off of her mind, as she was paranoid at the time, so it does happen from time to time. However, though, a few minutes later, they all went in the pool and they were having a good swim and had a great time. While they were swimming, Sharon ends up looking to see that there was something black on the deep end of the pool. Now, she was confused at first, wasn't sure as to what it was, but she couldn't even realize what this was. She looked and it looked to be about a person. She obviously wasn't really sure, so she got a closer look at the deep end. Once she got closer to the deep end, she realizes that it is not a person at all. She obviously wasn't sure as to what it was. Her friend decided that they would go tell a lifeguard about it. Once they told the lifeguard about it, everyone immediately exited out of the big pool. Once they did that, and once everyone was out, the lifeguard took a stick, what appears to be a pool tool, to go and collect whatever that was. Obviously, it was just only a thing of garbage bag, but there was nothing inside. However, there was something wrapped up inside, which happened to be the only thing in there. As the lifeguard took it out, they were unsure as to what it was, and they ended up ending swimming at least a half an hour earlier than usual. Now, Sharon was confused at this time, and of course, that's when the lifeguard could not give or disclose any information towards the campers. Only the camp staff knew about it, and the lifeguards, but that was just mainly it. Sharon went to that same summer camp at least two years later, and she never had a problem or anything like that ever happen again. But she was very curious as to what it was. It might have been something that nobody wants anyone to see, which could be the possibility, but there was no way to know for sure. It has been years now, and Sharon has moved on past it, but she had a feeling that it could have been something illegal or something much worse. And she doesn't even want to know what was inside that garbage can bag. She doesn't even want to know what was in it. So this happened to my friend Charlotte back when she was a young girl, probably around 12 years old. This was sometime, I guess you could say, was in 2009. It was shortly after she had turned 12 years old. Charlotte went to this one summer camp that was a horse camp. And basically, they ride every day and do horse activities. She really enjoyed it, and she loved horses ever since she was little. This was something she has always loved doing. Ever since she was young, she always loved to ride horses and always wanted to become a champion one day and own a horse of her own. However, this story definitely sets a setback and why she had trouble learning how to ride again, but she moved past on that and she's doing a lot better now. Now, Charlotte was with a group of kids in the day camp, and they were pretty much doing some horse related activity. That's when one of the camp counselors say that they were going to go on a trail ride, and Charlotte was riding this one horse named Jem. Jem was a beautiful chestnut horse, and he was really kind and gentle. As Charlotte rode him along with the other kids, they were going on a trail ride in the forest. Now, they did their best to watch each other's space, and Charlotte happened to be behind the last one since she had stuff to do before she could go riding. While she was on the back of the line, she was pretty much just doing her own thing on the trail. While looking around, she ends up looking to see that Jem was looking at something. Now, at first she was confused, thinking what it was that he was looking at, but he seemed to be looking at a different angle. Whatever it was, Charlotte wasn't so sure as to what it was, and so she had a closer look inspection, and she realized that it could have been something that Jem saw, like maybe a fox or possibly a coyote or maybe deer. But she couldn't see anybody, and this honestly got her a little nervous out. She ends up looking and squinting and realizes that there was an old abandoned cabin in the woods. Now, she obviously wasn't sure as to who or what was in there, so she steered her horse in that direction to get a better look at the cabin. As she got closer, she ends up looking inside, but couldn't find anyone, and there was only dust and some furniture that was in there. That was probably the only thing that was in there, but she ends up looking around some more. She couldn't find anybody, and just as she was about to get off her horse, she ends up hearing a blood-curdling scream. She didn't know where that came from, so she and her horse ended up going back the way they came, and they were galloping to catch up with the other riders that were ahead of her. She obviously did not tell the camp counselor or the barn staff or anything of what she heard or saw, as she is afraid that she would get into a lot of trouble. But however, she decided not to bring this up to the camp counselors, as she didn't want to not only get in trouble, but she could also get lectured by them about how she should be following the rules, etc., etc. She knows that there was somebody around the area, and was it possible that she was being watched? That was obviously a feeling that she did not even want to feel, is knowing that someone was watching her. But how could she know that someone was watching her, as there was no evidence of it and she didn't see anybody? That scream might have come from far away, but who knows what that was. Still to this day, Charlotte does get a little weirded out and gets a little nervous every time she thinks of this story. Now when she does more trail rides here and there, she is more careful and more wise as to where she was going and learning how to stay close to her group, etc., etc. Nothing has ever happened since then, and she hopes it stays that way. So this took place sometime when I was around maybe 17 years old, and this took place back in 2016. Now, I was at a youth camp, which happened to be for people in high school years and to early to 20 years. Basically, these kind of camps were a lot of fun, and I have done a couple day camps like this in the past. I've enjoyed them, as my parents wanted me to do more stuff outside the house than just sit in the house and play video games all day. I mainly like doing these camps. Summer camps were fun. However, there were 2 overnight camps that have happened been to be one in July and one in August. This took place the one in July. So it was the first day when we got to the camp area, and it was a pretty decent house. It had a kitchen, some places for people to sleep, a living space, 2 bathrooms, and there was even a garage area. Obviously, it wasn't too bad. It looked like a really cute little house. Apparently, it was a house that was used for Girl Scouts and stuff. So we were sleeping outside the tent, as some people had the option to sleep outside the tent and some want to sleep inside. So I decided to sleep outside just to give it a try, as to get the feel of camping. I had a partner with me, and her name was Mackenzie, and she had Down syndrome, which there wasn't any problem with that, as I know people that have Down syndrome and as well as other disabilities. Now, on the first night before we go to bed, we were watching a movie and we were just chilling and eating snacks and chatting and having a great time. Nothing has happened, but something did happen that night. Now, I went to bed, I would say around maybe 10 p.m., and I woke up a few hours later. I looked at the time on my phone and it said it was around 1:30, so I only slept for a few hours. I ended up waking up having the urge to use the bathroom, so I ended up getting up and looking around outside the tent. I slowly and carefully got out of the tent just to not wake up my roommate, and then I slowly went towards the house. The back door was unlocked, so I was able to get in slowly without having anybody be awakened. Everyone else was asleep, so I didn't have to worry about waking anyone up. I used the bathroom, and then by the time I used the bathroom, I got back, but I looked in one of the tents. There was something inside the tent that obviously wasn't really sure what it was. I ended up looking around the tent, but there was no sign of entry, but there was definitely something really strange inside one of the tents. I ended up looking under and I realized that there was a knife. I was confused, so I took the knife in hand and ended up looking around thinking somebody was there watching me. But since I couldn't find anybody, I decided that I would take the knife with me before anybody could use it to harm anyone. I went back in my tent and I ended up getting back to sleep at least a few minutes later. Fast forward to around maybe 3:30, I woke up to hearing some footsteps walking around my tent. Now, I was a little confused and wasn't so sure if it was a camp counselor or somebody pulling a prank on me, but I stayed as quiet as I could, and I didn't even dare to look around. I was confused and wasn't so sure as to what it was, but I was really scared for my life. I ended up staying as quiet as I could, and whatever it was then took off running while letting out a deranged scream. It sounded like some mentally insane man, and of course, as soon as he was gone, I ended up falling back to sleep, and I held the knife, which happened to be near me. I didn't really hold it while I'm sleeping, but I put it near me in case if anybody were to try to harm me again. But, however, the next morning, I told the camp counselors and showed them the knife, and they ended up looking around the area. They had the police over to have a look and made sure there was nobody hiding anywhere in the camp area that could be a danger to someone. They didn't find anyone, thankfully, but I was really confused as to who that man was and what was he doing in our camping area. I obviously did not ever see him again since then, and I am still kind of wondering if he's still out and about or if he got the help that he needs. That still sticks with me to this day.